Have you ever landed on a new blockchain network, perhaps after an airdrop with, really high hopes, thinking this might be the next big thing?
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you check back maybe a few weeks later, and what do you find? Often, well, crickets.
Right. Silence.
Exactly. Just maybe a native decentralized exchange, a DX, doing most of the work, most of the activity. But there's this kind of general absence of what people call killer apps.
Those applications that really pull people in.
Yeah, the ones that drive real adoption. It's a surprisingly common thing in crypto, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it really highlights a critical challenge for the whole blockchain landscape. We're seeing the significant risk of what you could call oversaturation, maybe peak fragmentation,
Fragmentation.
where all the user attention, the liquidity, even developer focus gets spread way too thin across too many networks.
Right.
And it's not just a problem for the brand new chains either. Some of the older, more established networks, they've grappled with that same basic issue, trying to attract and keep actual users, constantly searching for that formula that really works.
That's a great point. But what's really fascinating now, I think, is this trend that's popping up amidst all that fragmentation. A kind of renewed interest in the, let's call them the dinos of crypto.
The OGs.
Yeah, the OGs. Those older networks that have really weathered the storms, survived bear markets, and now they seem to be making a real comeback.
And while the tokenomics, the money side, definitely plays a part in that resilience.
Sure.
You're right. There's probably something deeper going on.
I think so, too. And today, we're taking a deep dive into one of those prime examples, SKALE.
Okay.
It's being presented as a pretty compelling bull case right now, and we're drawing insights from that Blockmates article, A Bull Case for SKALE, the gas-free invisible blockchain. So the big question is, how does an OG network like SKALE manage to not just hang on, but actually thrive when so many others seem to falter? Let's unpack this.
Well, first off, just to kind of cement that OG status you mentioned, it's worth remembering SKALE's been around since 2018.
2018, wow.
Yeah, nearly 6 years in this incredibly fast-moving industry. That definitely says something about endurance.
6 years is practically an eternity in crypto time, right?
It really is.
And what the sources seem to emphasize about SKALE is its remarkably consistent mission, like almost laser-focused. They don't seem to be just chasing the latest trend. Instead, it feels like they've been really dedicated to delivering a seamless and a unique user experience.
For both the dApps and the end users.
Exactly. And the real insight here, I think, isn't just about getting applications onto the network,
Right.
but making sure those applications are actively used, fostering, a vibrant network with real, meaningful activity.
That focus on active usage is key, not just vanity metrics.
Yeah, that seems to be what makes them stand out. So, given this challenge, cultivating genuine activity, how has SKALE actually managed to not just attract, but keep users and developers where others struggle?
Okay.
This is where their core innovation really comes into play, I think.
Yeah, SKALE uses a very strategic, kind of two-pronged approach. Their design optimizes first for the applications,
Okay.
and then that naturally leads to optimizing for the end users.
Make
Think of it like making things great for the developers first, which then smooths the path for anyone actually using the dApps.
Okay.
And right at the heart of this strategy is SKALE's pioneering role in what's called app chain design.
App chains. Heard
Um,
that term a lot lately.
Well, they were really among the first to implement this model. These app chains are essentially dedicated SKALE chains.
Dedicated.
Yeah, individual dApps get their own distinct block space.
Yeah.
They function almost like independent layer 1 networks.
Okay, so independent L1s, almost. That's fascinating. So you're saying this app chain design, it aims to get rid of that annoying competition for block space. The
Exactly.
thing that often messes up general purpose L1s, causing delays and driving up costs.
Right, that bottleneck problem.
So is this truly a game changer for dApp scalability then? Or are there maybe still limitations, even with this setup?
Yeah.
And how does the scale manager fit in? The smart contracts on Ethereum that handle creating and destroying these chains.
Well, it's definitely a game changer because it provides those dedicated resources.
Mm-hmm.
dApps can scale on their own terms without slowing everyone else down.
Okay.
And the scale manager, yeah, it's on Ethereum, but it acts like a decentralized coordinator. It handles the security, the interoperability between chains.
Gotcha.
So fundamentally, SKALE is really a network of, limitless, independent, and interoperable app chains and hub chains.
Hub chains, too.
Yeah, they all interact seamlessly, and they're all unified under one shared economic system, with the SKALE token sort of holding it all together.
SKALE token, right.
Now, underpinning this whole architecture is SKALE's really unique innovation, the chain subscription model.
Okay, the subscription model.
This is where SKALE chains operate on a flat monthly subscription rate. They pay this fee to exist on the network.
A flat fee. Interesting.
Yeah, and this gives two massive advantages. First, developers get incredibly predictable overhead costs. Huge for budgeting.
Oh, I bet. No more surprise gas spikes.
Exactly. And second, validators get a stable, reliable source of income, of incentivization, no matter how much or how little transaction volume there is at any given moment.
That predictability for devs sounds like a huge win. But okay, here's the key insight, right? This subscription model itself is the foundation that enables the gas-free experience for the end users.
Precisely.
That seems like the magic trick. By getting rid of the cost, the friction of gas fees, SKALE knocks down one of the biggest mental hurdles for regular people using blockchain, making it kind of invisible, like the article says.
That's the goal. On the SKALE network, users simply don't pay transaction fees with valuable tokens.
Okay.
Instead, those validator rewards, they come straight from the chain subscription model. The developers pay that flat monthly fee, sustaining their chains and funding the network operations.
But wait, how do they stop spam then? You know, Sybil attacks where someone could just flood the network with useless transactions if it's free?
Good question. They still need a mechanism for that? That's where QL comes in.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, it's SKALE's unique gas token. But here's the crucial part. It's totally valueless.
Valueless.
Yep, and you can get it for free from a faucet. So users pay nothing, but the network still has that layer of protection. It stops anyone from just overwhelming it with junk.
Clever. So it functions like gas, but without the cost.
Exactly. And the numbers are pretty wild. This gas-free model, they estimate, has saved users over $10 billion in lifetime gas fees.
10 billion. Wow.
That's not just a statistic. That's a massive amount of friction just gone.
That architectural efficiency, it naturally makes you think about performance speed. When we talk about networks needing to handle millions, maybe billions of transactions, metrics like TPS transactions per second and TTF, time to finality, they become absolutely critical, don't they, for a good user experience?
They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And SKALE really shines here. Those independent SKALE chains, they boast an average TPS of around 397.7, according to a Dartmouth study.
Okay, nearly 400 TPS per chain.
Yeah. And collectively, the whole network achieves over 7,000 TPS.
7,000 total.
Yep, making it, verifiably one of the fastest blockchains out there today.
So what does that kind of speed combine with the zero-cost transactions? What does that really mean for applications that chew through massive amounts of data?
Yeah.
I can see why high-throughput dApps would love it, but which specific areas do you think benefit the most? Where does this performance really push the envelope?
It's especially powerful for things like AI protocols.
AI, okay.
Social applications, gaming,
Yeah.
places where you need to push millions of tiny transactions without racking up huge costs. That's essential for a smooth experience.
Right, like AI models interacting on chain or tons of small social media interactions.
Exactly. Things that just wouldn't be feasible on many other chains because of cost or speed limits.
And is there actual proof of this activity? Is it really happening?
Yeah, we have solid proof of real growing activity. Looking at the validation side, the network has over 888 nodes.
Wow.
Operating as part of 111 supernodes. Those are like clusters of validators supporting multiple app chains.
Okay.
And what's really impressive is that nearly 50% of the network's native token supply, SKL, is actively staked.
Half the supply staked. That shows some serious community belief.
It really underscores the momentum and commitment there.
And what about the dApps themselves? Are people using them?
The dApp activity is also really compelling. There are currently 18 dApps on SKALE, with over 10,000 monthly active users each.
18 dApps over 10K users. That's significant.
It shows a diverse and active ecosystem. And the key insight here, I think, is unlike some other L1s, where maybe one or two DEXs just dominate everything.
Right, soaking up all the volume.
Yeah. SKALE's main chain hubs, Calypso and Nebula, they host several different kinds of apps that are genuinely buzzing with users and real activity.
So it's not just DeFi eating everything.
Exactly. That's a critical difference. And beyond those hubs, you've got independent app chains like
Bay, right? Yeah.
That's an AI protocol collecting and analyzing tons of internet data in real time.
Yeah.
They also fall into that 10K plus monthly user category. It shows real-world utility.
It also seems pretty smart that SKALE has this synergistic strategy. They're aligning with current hot topics, right, like AI, they seem heavily focused on AI expanding their Titan Hub, which is specifically designed to attract and support AI-driven applications, like Forum AI launching there recently.
Yep.
But strategically, what makes AI such a natural fit for Scale's architecture beyond just, being a popular narrative right now?
Well, AI applications often demand incredibly high transaction throughput.
Yeah.
Think about data processing, model interactions, maybe micropayments for compute or data.
Ah, okay. Lots of small, fast transactions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All things that benefit hugely from a gas-free, high TPS environment like Scales. It provides that core infrastructure that many traditional blockchains just struggle to offer for AI when you try to scale it up.
Okay, that makes sense. So zooming out a bit then, let's talk about the SKALE token again. How does it serve as the bedrock, the foundation for this whole ecosystem? How does it tie all these innovative pieces together and ensure it lasts long term?
Yeah, the SKALE token is absolutely fundamental. It has four key jobs, four utilities.
Okay.
First, it's used for payments through that chain subscription model we talked about.
Right, the monthly fees.
Developers pay their monthly fees in SKALE to keep their apps running. This creates a relatively constant, predictable demand for the token, unlike, volatile gas fees.
The predictable demand.
Okay, number one. Second, it's central to network validation via staking.
Staking, standard stuff, but important.
Right. Validators have to stake at least 2 million SKL, and delegators can also stake their SKL to support the network's security and integrity.
2 million, quite a bit. Okay, number 2 is staking. What's 3?
Third, SKL is the rewards mechanism for participating in the network.
Ah, the incentives.
Delegators get monthly rewards, validators earn revenue based on epochs, sort of regular time intervals, and that revenue comes from both SKL inflation and those developers' subscription payments.
Okay.
Our source mentioned a pretty notable 10% APY on staked SKL.
Yeah.
That definitely encourages participation.
10% APY. Yeah, that'll get attention. Okay, rewards. And fourth?
And finally, number 4, governance. Holding SKL tokens gives you voting rights.
Makes sense.
Holders can create and vote on proposals, contributing to how the network evolves in a decentralized way.
Okay, so payments, staking, rewards, governance. Got it.
And the long-term vision here is pretty interesting. The goal is for the revenue from that chain subscription model to eventually become larger than the new SKL tokens being created through inflation.
So the subscriptions pay for everything eventually.
Exactly. Creating an economically self-sufficient system as the SKL inflation rate gradually drops towards zero. The insight is this aims to shift Scale from relying on token inflation, like many protocols, to becoming a sustainable, decentralized sort of business.
A sustainable model based on actual usage fees paid by developers. That's compelling. So after digging into all this, what really stands out to you about why developers and users seem to be choosing Scale? What's the core appeal that makes it stick?
Honestly, I think it genuinely boils down to end-user satisfaction. That's anchored by the whole gas-free invisible blockchain idea.
Making it easy.
That's Scale's ultimate aim.
Yeah.
Making blockchain use so smooth, so seamless, you barely even notice it's there.
And it definitely helps that Scale chains are EVM compatible, right?
Absolutely.
That means developers can just bring over their existing Ethereum apps pretty easily without a massive rewrite. Lowers the barriers significantly.
Precisely. And this creates this really powerful, compelling dynamic, a kind of win-win logic.
How so?
Well, users naturally prefer Scale because there are no transaction fees, right?
Yeah, obvious choice.
And that user preference, in turn, gives developers a really strong incentive to prioritize building and deploying on Scale. Go where the users want to be.
The users pull the developers.
Exactly. And there's another big benefit for dApps, too. They can actually pay their subscription fees in advance. Lock them in for 12, even 24 months.
Oh, wow. Lock-in costs for 2 years.
Yeah. This gives them incredibly predictable overhead and lets them do some really robust financial planning.
That's huge for any business, let alone a crypto project.
It really is. And this is a critical insight because it shifts the focus in the industry. Instead of just looking at maybe misleading metrics like TVL, total value locked.
Which can be easily inflated.
Right. It shifts the focus to true protocol revenue, actual sustainable income streams being generated by the network based on developers paying for the service.
That feels much healthier long term. It seems clear then that Scale's network activity isn't just happening by chance. It really aligns perfectly with its structure, its goals. It really serves as proof of its success, cementing its place as one of those OG networks that truly gets both the tech and the user experience right.
It seems that way.
Its unique design seems remarkably resilient. It appears immune to that no real user curse that's hit so many other L1s.
Yeah, they seem to have cracked that code.
Instead, it's thriving on this solid ecosystem, constantly evolving with partnerships. And we can't forget the chain subscription model itself. You said it's barely 2 years old.
Yeah, relatively new in the grand scheme.
And it's already shaking up fundamental ideas about how blockchains can be sustainable. That's pretty significant.
It really is. And this whole thing, it raises a really important question for listeners to think about.
Okay.
In this world that's really grappling with blockchain fragmentation, trying to keep users engaged, how might Scale's fundamental shift, moving away from per-transaction fees to this subscription model, how might that reshape what we expect for blockchain sustainability and real mass adoption? Especially for those really demanding high-throughput applications like AI.
That's definitely something to chew on, isn't it? A potential glimpse into a different future for blockchain business models. We encourage you, the listener, to consider that question and definitely explore more about Scale and its unique approach.